dia, Portugal!
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. A little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.
Hola, bon dia, alegria. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show, live stream and podcast. How are you today? How was your weekend? It's actually July already. You can tell by the searing summer heat. Not, but there's still time for that, isn't there? Now, who doesn't like to start the day with a swelling organ? Let's do that this morning, and then we'll speak to the old guy in Europe straight after. Honestly, what did you think I meant? Oh my goodness.
Bom dia.
Bom dia, tudo bem?
So much to go with, all at the very beginning.
You like a swelling organ, don't you?
Yeah. The building, yes.
We can go to Google now. You know, there was always a little bit awkward, wasn't it, going into Google Translate? Can you see on the screen here, James? They have a Portugal in brackets option. That should probably say European, shouldn't it, rather than Portugal? But Google Translate now has a European Portuguese option.
Yes, I'm sure we'll notice massive differences.
Praise the Lord. Yes,
we've managed to struggle through with Google Translate using Brazilian Portuguese and do it fairly well. I haven't noticed that many differences in the translations. But if you want to avoid that altogether, there's an app called Deepl, D-E-E-P with capital L, that is all European Portuguese. It's designed to do that. So
very good, very good. I've not used that very much. I noticed my eldest was on which is the one? Oh, Duolingo, is it? Where you actually, it's gamed. So the game.
Duolingo is Brazilian, however.
Yeah, he starts the morning every morning without any pressure from the parents. He's on that in the mornings. So he's a good lad. But Deepl always reminds me of nipple for some reason. I don't know why. I just, you know how these things get hardwired.
Yeah. It could just as easily connected to people, but it didn't.
Funnily enough.
Funny how the mind works.
Talking of hardwiring of the mind, how is yours? And what recollections or what realizations do you have for this?
Well, in the moment, you know, with the organ player, of course, there's all this sort of middle school commentary going through my brain about Oh, his is a pretty small organ.
It was a
and
small one, wasn't it?
I've seen very much larger organs, but then it reminded me of a vacation I took to Italy, and we heard organ music. I forget. I think it was San Gimignano, where there's a church at the very top of the village, the town. So we just followed the music, and the church was open, and the pipe organ was just going like crazy. So we walked in, and there was no one else in there, and it was dark, and I guess the organist was just practicing. He just, setting up for the Sunday service or whatever. So we were able to pull up a seat and sit down in this dark church, and the only light was the light he had to be able to see his music, and it was transformative. It was really incredible. And that organ, I mean, it was huge. So there was that thought about the huge organ as well, but mostly the beauty and the grounding in the moment.
Yes.
Pretty amazing.
That's tiny, isn't it? That little keyboard he's got there.
Yeah, it looks very old too. So
yes,
I wouldn't expect it to be huge.
Keyboard to pipe ratio is quite low there, isn't it? Or quite a small keyboard to pipes.
Yeah, these days, you see 3 or 4 keyboards and the bass pedals underneath, and
a team, like other people, like, oh, come on, we can do this.
And the guy has to blow all that air into those pipes, is just exhausted.
Well, thank you to John Heimbach for that. John recovering well from his cataract surgery.
Oh, nice.
Glad to hear that, John. And thank you for sending us that. And this bit of community video as well from up there in the north of Portugal. They make that look a lot easier than it actually is, I think. And I thought I saw Wolverine there. Did you see Wolverine? Was that at the Fate as well, I think?
I didn't notice.
I think I could see and hear him there. So absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much. What did you do this weekend? That's what John Heimbach, as well as recovering from the cataract surgery. Very well indeed. He is enjoying a bit of organ work. And I don't know if that's the same village. I'll just have a look at that. And see. Lots of heartwarming. What a lovely description. Heartwarming shared community events in the past weekend. I was thinking about that actually, how generous and hospitable Portuguese people are, just letting all and sundry into their villages and towns and cities at this time of year. Well, any time of year, really. Dancing and music in Corellia with neighbours Friday night, and then a lovely free organ concert. There you go, at our local Igreja, the church in Ponte Lima. Thanks, John, very much indeed. Now, I'll say a few more welcomes, or I'll put the welcomes on the screen while you are sharing with us further recollections. Really enjoyed that. Was it Italy where you heard the organ music, did you say?
Yes. Yeah.
And there's something about having a free concert, isn't there? There's something about it not being a scheduled thing and you chancing upon it as well.
Just following the energy, basically. And in this case, it was music that we heard. But yeah, it's amazing the kinds of experiences we can have when we just sort of wander into something without an agenda. Just follow your heart, follow your soul, follow whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or the aromas. Yes, the spiritual aroma there of the organs in Italy. Apparently, Rugby Colin is here. Good morning to you, Colin. Mafra Palace has 6 organs. That's boasting, isn't it? That's going a bit over the top. Recently renovated, but they can only get 4 at a time playing, as all 6 would damage the building structure. Now that's an organ ensemble, isn't it?
There's some vibration in that.
Battle of the bands. I mean, the people, rockers, you know, heavy metal people think they've got some loud music, but if you play all of your organs at the same time, I think they take the crown in the Battle of the Bands lineup there. I mean, in many ways, I'm wishing we could see that. I know it would be very destructive to an old building, but it'd be an amazing video, wouldn't it?
Yes, and actually, if you wanted a demolition video, it's just watch the building fall apart when the organ's playing.
Why don't Mafra Palace offer that service? I mean, if you know how well built these palaces are. I mean, imagine if they took their 6 organs to a new build, you know, built in the 60s or 70s, they'd have it down in minutes, wouldn't they?
And just the thought of taking their 6 organs to another location, it's like, come on. How many trucks would you need?
After 3.
Like moving a house. It's just simple. Just take it down the road.
Yes. Now, we've been quite distracted by organs this morning. I'm going to put a few greetings on the screen while you share with us your recollection and reflection of the week, James, as the old guy in Europe, because that's going on very nicely as well, of course.
Yeah, well, as far as specifically to the brand, it's funny even calling it a brand because it was just a name I thought was kind of fun. I'm finding my initial idea was to present primarily my content would be my spots on Good Morning Portugal, just segmenting them out. And those are very easy to produce because I already have the intro and the outro done. And so I just throw a spot on GMP in there. But I didn't want it. I decided I don't want it to be all that. I want to have some variety in it. So this week I said, oh, well, how about your arrival and impressions of arriving in Portugal and Ericeira. I said, oh, that could be fun. So I got all my visuals together and realized now I have all this recording to do, you know, voiceover stuff. I just went, oh, what have you done, James? So, you know, I've been working on that for about 6 hours already, and it's much better than the first 8 minutes. My first 8-minute video that took me 16 hours to produce. You know, I'm maybe about 6 hours in, and we'll probably have 10 or 15 minutes of stuff, but I'm just not happy with the voiceover. So anyway, there's a lot of time this weekend spent on that I wasn't planning on spending. I thought, okay, we'll just put that together. And fortunately I'm working in advance. I'm trying to get a bank of 3 episodes done in each week, but I'm running a couple behind right now. Anyway, that was my weekend, mostly is focusing on that. I did take a nice walk with my friend Stefan locally here. It was nice to get out and breathe some fresh air. And it was very tropical. I didn't anticipate that coming to Portugal. I missed it, but the humidity and the cloudiness and the heat, all 3 together, is something I just wasn't anticipating. So,
yes, that's right, because you could get dressed for a walk, couldn't you? And find yourself quite overdressed.
Yeah. I mean, it was cloudy and gray like it is now, looking like it might rain. So I had my jacket and my, overshirt and an undershirt. And I went out and I almost immediately had to take my jacket off. And then after walking, like I was down to just my t-shirt. So just the things, that's part of the thing about making a move or any change for that matter is you can't anticipate every situation. Then it's how do you manage it when you're faced with it? And for me, that particular thing is not a big deal, but it continues to be a bit of a surprise for me. I just wasn't ready for humidity. I was actually trying to avoid humid places. And that's something I missed. It's like, oops, missed that one. But it's not, the barking dogs is annoying me more than the humidity by far. The endless barking of dogs who seem to think that if there's if there's a fly in the front yard, they have to let the whole neighborhood know.
Quite right too. So that sounds like it's a bit of a thing. These are the great sounds of Portugal as I have it: church bells, a rooster, and barking dogs. That's the last of those is grating on you a little, is it?
Well, it has been. For me, I don't just get annoyed at something and go, oh, I'm just going to be annoyed, stay annoyed, and not think about it. So what is it about that's bugging you? And I know that really who I'm annoyed with is not the dogs and not the sound, but the owners that don't manage their animals. The dogs are not given any cues to be quiet. Nobody, their owners do not respond. The dogs are doing their job. Their job is to, hey, let you know something's going on out here. That's their job. And they'll keep doing it until someone says, okay, I got it. Thanks, guys. You can go back to sleep now.
Yes.
So they just go on and on and on and on for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes of just constant barking. And we've got neighbors down the street that have 7 dogs in a kennel.
So one of those at any given time must be barking.
All of them. Every time one barks, all 7 are barking, which then sets off the neighborhood. The one dog down there and the dogs in the backyard and the dogs over there all go because all the dogs are going. And that sort of unpredictable, it's not constant and perpetual, but it pops on and stays on for a long time and then goes away. And sometimes I don't notice it. And then I notice it. Like it's like someone...
Then you can't unnotice it, can you?
Yeah, because it's not like you turned it on. It was going. It's like music in the background you weren't really listening to, and then all of a sudden you hear the music or whatever.
Yes.
So there's that part, the surprising part, the lack of the distraction it creates, especially when I'm trying to concentrate. And then what really gets to me is that there's nobody caring for those animals short of cleaning up their poop and feeding them. They're just basically in these they're not kennels, I forget what they call, but anyway, cages, big cages for dogs. Nobody's out there petting them, talking to them. These dogs down the street, the dogs that my family have, they don't get walked. They don't get personal attention. They just sit in their cages all day with nothing to do, and except market stuff which is their job. And then nobody tells them, okay, good job, settle down. So it's that part. It's the human connection to it. And I know the relationship between humans and animals in Portugal is different culturally for the most part than it is in the United States. In the United States, there are working animals for sure. There are dogs that are there to hunt or to do whatever they're there to do. They're not family members. They don't get brought into the house, but they get attention. The ownership, interacts with them on some level, even if it's just to go hunting every weekend. But most of the dogs I'm in a fairly suburban type neighborhood. As far as I know, I've never seen any of them out of their cages ever. And I've heard of dogs that are, tied to a post and left there. I mean, so even worse. They can't even move around. In many ways,
like you might have Portugal to one end of the spectrum of relationship to animals, and America at the other end, or United States, as in, in America, I can imagine some people might even move out of their houses and let the dogs have the house while they live outside in a cage and identify as dogs.
The equivalent is letting the animal take over the house. They
Yes.
let them in and then the dog does whatever it wants. To me, it all boils down to lack of discipline of the owners to we'll teach our children how to behave, but we won't teach our dogs how to behave. That doesn't make sense to me. If I don't want my dog on my furniture, I have to train it to stay off or not train it to get on. If I don't want my dog begging for food at the dinner table, then I never give it food from the dinner table. Otherwise, anyway, those kinds of things.
Same with children.
Yes, it's just training. And that is the part when I look at myself, that annoys me, because when I had a dog, I was very responsible about making sure that he was behaving. I wasn't like he had to be ready for my command, at a moment's notice. I wasn't like this big stern boss of the dog thing, but he knew, when I was preparing food in the kitchen, he used to come in and drool all over everything. So I made him wait in the living room.
Drool out there on a sofa.
Yeah. And I love telling the story because he would come in, he'd be in the kitchen, be looking at me like, ooh, got something for me, and drool. And I'd say, you know better, get out. And he'd see the hand motion. I would point out of the kitchen. And he'd look at me and he'd put a face on like, oh, really?
Yes, I mean it. Now go.
And and I said, yeah, get out. And he'd go, oh.
God, if only people were like that, James.
And then he would slump over like a teenager, go to the living room. And in the United States, I don't know if it's still, but the wall-to-wall carpeting has been a thing for a long time. So there was a border. The carpeting was in the living room and the kitchen was linoleum. So we go right to that border. And he would look around behind him like, are you sure? I said, yes, get out. Go lay down. So he would go, and he'd slowly turn himself around and he would lay down and put his paws down on the ground and put his nose over his paws like this. But his paws were about that far into the kitchen.
Yes.
Just over the edge of the carpeting.
The last bit of power play. And
when he put his nose down, he'd go,
yes.
But he would do it, right? And then he wouldn't be in my way. I wouldn't be tripping on him, all that stuff. So I was not like this, have to be in control of the dog all the time, but there were certain appropriate times I didn't let people invite him to jump on them when he was a puppy, because I knew he was going to be a huge dog when he grew up, and people go, come on, and my vision was him knocking grandma over, right? Like, no. So even when I did it, I would try it from time to time and say, come on up. And he'd just look at me like, what do you want?
Very good.
Yeah.
Good training. Well, I want to ask you, as a result of this, it's a bit like the Celtic prayer, isn't it? It's like, God, give me the patience to manage things I can't change. And there will be things in this country, in other new countries that people go to, that they can't change, that they have to learn to cope with. We'll come back to that, because in the mere talking of animals, we have had Wolverine himself has sent in Gus out on a walk. The hydrangeas are out at the moment. Aren't they beautiful? Talking of grannies, I always imagine that to be the granny flower, the hydrangea. And there's that's blooms at the moment in Portugal here. And that's what Gus was trying to get to. Beautiful cat on the wall there. And look at our cat this weekend. What is it with cat cardboard boxes? This is Ollie. He's the one who went for the journey last week in the car, accidentally, and he was the second one to be discovered on the second leg of the journey. Anyway, and here he is in a different, more reflective moment, a bit like you, James. There, a mindful moment for a cat in a box. But even though that box is far, just huge, isn't it? He just had his instinct to get inside a box was evident. Right there. But anyway, so you can't change that, I don't think, without starting some sort of dog club or something like that in your neighborhood, and not having a dog yourself. That might seem a little odd. So how do you manage that? Before we go to, we're going to call Michael Heron to talk about the football, and after, we'll have Tig join us as well. To see what's going on for the post-Brexit Brits. There's something going on in Britain in the next few days. You'll tell us about that as well, maybe. So what do you do? Getting the patience for the things you cannot change, as well as changing the things you can.
Well, yeah, and that's a great question. I go to, and I alluded to it, what is it about what's happening that creates my reaction? Why am I reacting in this way to that thing? So it becomes more about me, because that's what I can control. I can't control the dogs.
Yes.
And this, again, is in my very reflective, my best moments is when I can manage this. When I'm annoyed with the dogs barking, forget it. I'm just going to be annoyed at it. But because I'm in a new place, that's one of my considerations. Might it have something to do with the place I'm in and not just what's going on? And if that's the case, why is that the case? So I make the effort to understand the culture that has this in it. And it's unfair. I know there are Portuguese people who have pets, that dogs that do come in the house and they do sit on the furniture and they do get attention. So I know that happens, but there's also this great number of animals that's not happening for. And one of the things I've come to understand about Portuguese culture is it's fairly pragmatic. It's everything has a purpose and a use. Nothing goes to waste kind of a culture. So if you have an animal, at least historically and traditionally, it's not because you want a friend or a child. It's because you want that animal to do something that will help you in your life, especially if you're a farmer or an animal herder or whatever it is. So the dog has a function. If you're going to go hunting, you want a dog that will help you find what you're looking for so you can go hunt it. So understanding that, then I can relax a little bit about my more U.S. upbringing that, animals are pets. And I never owned a dog with the idea it was a child or a family member per se, but it was definitely something that I had emotions about, positive emotions toward. So I try to understand that, and that helps me to settle down a little bit. I still struggle every time when it's control, animals or people not training their animals to behave. Because to me, where that goes for me is, that's just lazy. People aren't being responsible. They don't care. They're being disrespectful of their neighbors. It goes to all kinds of things that get me upset.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, they're not yours. And what are your choices? So that's the noticing. This is upsetting me. How do I not be upset? What can I do about it? Well, one of the choices would be to approach the owner of the animals and say, could you get your animals under control, please? They're driving me crazy. That would be a very adult, I might not use those words, but that would be a very adult approach, actually approach the problem and see if there's a resolution.
Yes, that would be owning it fully, wouldn't it?
Yes. Part of there are many factors that stop that. So I don't do that. One is the language.
Yeah.
Another is I know
deep water quite quickly, can you?
Yes, and I know that other neighbors have approached that, and it doesn't change. So why would this foreigner who has a problem with it make any difference? So I've opted not to go with that option and figure, all right, what can I do about that? And in the moments when I can get past that annoyance, then I do what I do. I breathe. I look at what I'm grateful for. I look at all the nearly countless reasons that I came to Portugal in the first place, and understand that I'm here for those reasons. And I ask myself sometimes, if I had known that this situation existed in Portugal, would that have stopped me from coming? And the answer is very clearly no, that would not have stopped me.
That's a good view on it. Yes. Okay. So what I'm hearing here is rigor with your trigger. See what I did?
Oh, nice. Yes.
And owning it and seeing what you can do about it. And it sounds like moving might be the best thing to do.
Well, part of it, and since that's in the works anyway, and it's not because of the dogs, I told Stefan, I said, if there was a reason for me to move, it would be the dogs. Like if there's any one thing that would cause me to leave, that would be the thing. But that's not the thing. It's not causing me. I have other reasons for moving. Yeah. But I do know now, I will be looking, part of what I'll be looking for in terms of where I live is a neighborhood that is not full of dogs.
Yes.
A quieter neighborhood.
Okay.
And I can consciously look for that now.
All right.
Because I'm aware of it and have the problem be less plentiful.
And I think perhaps useful to others, excuse me, it's particulate, melamine particulate on the chest from making some shelves this weekend. I don't recommend it. Right, and I was wearing a mask actually. Right, let's bring Tig on. It's a little bit early for Tig, but I'm sure she'll want to join the fascinating football conversation we're about. Isn't that right, Tig? Hola, bon dia. Hello.
Bon dia.
Have you done something with your hair? Have you had a do?
No, just stuck it up.
Pulled up in the back.
A nice updo. Okay, very nice. Good to see you, Tig. How are you? Tudo bem?
I'm all right. Yeah, it's sunny actually. Talking about moving, I'm actually moving this week.
Are you? Oh my goodness! Thank you for fitting us in. All right, okay. We'll distract you from the possible stress of moving with a fascinating conversation about football. I could see you were delighted at the proposition, the prospect of that. Do you know what the result was last night? Have you been keeping an eye on things?
It was 2-1, wasn't it?
Amazing, isn't that? I didn't watch because I didn't want to watch a terrible game.
It was a really bad game, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it probably was, but we'll find out. Well, let's give him a ring now. Let's bring our correspondent on to help us with this.
Okay.
Are you hearing a ringing of a phone in the background?
Yes.
Good, okay. It'll be the magnificent Michael Heron, hopefully, who answers the phone. Although maybe he's been contracted by the BBC or ITV. No, he has not been contracted by the BBC or the ITV. He is with the GMP this morning to talk about football. Michael Heron, we remember you.
Mr. Munson. I know. The one and only has a go.
All right, but you?
Where have you been?
Yes, where have you been?
That was it. You disappeared.
I know, I've been hiding. I've been hiding.
Okay. Well, it's excellent to hear you. And I feel a little bit bad about. I mean, you're here to talk about Portugal tonight because that's the all-important match that's happening this evening, and I'm sure you'll give us the time, and you'll have a little bit of a speculate about their chances tonight. But we've got to talk about that England match, haven't we? I didn't bother to watch it. I was working yesterday afternoon, and I did drive past the Welsh bar to see if what the score was when I was out getting some parts or something. And Karen at the Welsh bar said it's 1-0 to Slovakia. She does talk a bit like that, actually. And I thought, well, that was good. That was a good answer. I won't bother watching this. And then when I got home, Mrs. M had been watching or tried to find it for me on online. And she said it's 0-0. And I thought, oh, Karen's just winding me up. But that's how it started, wasn't it? It was 1-0 to the Slovakians. And then England pulled it back from the brink, didn't they, to stay in the competition?
Yeah, it was like the 94th minute. I mean, yeah, basically Jude Bellingham. We were relying on a 21-year-old for an overhead kick in the last 2 minutes to get us out of jail. It was very, 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 very stressful. But it was a good performance in the end. But yeah, I don't think if we keep playing like that, then I don't think we'll get very far in the competition. So let's see. Yeah. It was a disaster.
Tig's analysis was spot on then. Terrible game, but the right result.
Yeah, it was terrible. And the problem we've had is that it's a bit like, I say it like with Southgate with the England players, it's like he's trying to put, if he was managing the Beatles, he'd put John Lennon on the drums. He just put players out of position.
Right.
That's quite a random analogy. But that's basically the problem we have. And all international teams have this problem where you've got a lot of really good players and you don't try and fit them all on the pitch. You have to find the right system to work with all of them. And it's a bit like when, you might remember when Ericeira had the problem with playing Lampard, Scholes and Gerrard all in midfield. So he'd have to put Scholes on the left and probably sacrifice the best of those three. Southgate's kind of doing the same thing. Yeah. So my expectations are very, very low.
But you
never know.
Well, that's where we've got to as England fans, obviously, because it's been a while since there's been a big win. Now, that's England sorted out. Very good, Tig. I didn't know you knew so much about the game there. And Portugal tonight then. So what's the situation for Portugal? It's very important for us foreigners, I think, to get behind the national team here. And obviously, as we've said before, a great way to engage in the culture, meet new friends down the cafe, all that sort of stuff. Where are Portugal at in their progress in this tournament, the Euro 24?
Well, I just wanted to say something about the Portuguese and where they support their national team, because it's something that will be very, very it's something that the England fans don't really relate to. Because I remember I went to the friendly match between Portugal and Croatia. This was like one of the warm-up games before the tournament with our friend Mark, and basically Portugal started losing, and then all of the stadium was shouting Portugal, like getting behind the team. Yes. I'm like, what's this? This isn't what I'm used to. Normally with England we get angry and we don't get behind the team unconditionally. So I've realised that with Portugal it's and this is maybe just something that happens in the UK. I don't know, but the Portuguese football fans are incredible. But anyway, so in terms of Portugal, I think they're playing Slovenia, who England had in our group, and we only managed to draw 0-0 with them. So I think they should get through comfortably. But I think Portugal are kind of having a similar tournament to us in that they haven't really got going yet. They're not really sure how who their best team is either. and they lost to Georgia in their group, who Spain convincingly beat yesterday. So I would worry for Portugal that if they do, and they should get through today, they might have a difficult tournament. But let's see. They've got a great team on paper. I mean, the match that I saw live before the tournament started, you can tell a bit more when you're in the stadium compared to watching on TV. They did look a lot better in the second half. But I think Ronaldo is just a bit of a toxic. I don't know. I feel really conflicted about it because the guy's had an amazing career, but he just seems to be so angry.
Angry
on the pitch. Yeah, I don't know if that's good for the team. I don't know. There's obviously like that's because he's so competitive, but
yes,
I don't know. I feel like they're not really performing as well as they could be if he was in the team, maybe, which is hard to say because of how incredible he's been.
And how respectful we must be towards him as the GOAT, of course, of Portuguese football and world football. Wow, that's interesting. Never thought I'd hear the word toxic in the same sentence as Cristiano. Well, so do you have a do you have a score? Do you have a score prediction for tonight?
Well, like I would tell anyone who's living in Portugal, who's not from Portugal, who hasn't experienced watching Portugal play with other Portuguese people, do it, because you'll be surprised at how amazing they get behind the team. So that's something I would do. And I think predictions. I mean, I think it will be probably, I'd say maybe 1-0 to Portugal. That's what I think probably happen. Maybe two. Maybe they should. Yeah, it should be. I mean, just because of the way England played against them, they seem to be quite defensive. But who knows?
All right, mate. Isn't it great to hear his voice? Michael Heron back on the Good Morning Portugal show, maybe with pictures next time as well.
Yeah, with video. Hopefully. Sorry, I haven't got my laptop with me, but let's definitely do it again soon, and I'll be able to say hello to everyone.
You're the best. Cheers, Michael. Thank you for that. We'll be thinking of you when we watch the game tonight. Cheers. All right.
Thanks,
bye
mate.
for now.
Bye-bye.
There he goes. Michael Heron. Tig, given your analysis was so good of the England game last night, what do you say for Portugal tonight?
I don't even know who they're playing. How bad is that?
You just said you tuned
Slovenia.
Sorry,
I know that.
Sorry, my phone went. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's okay. It's not everyone's cup of tea, the old footy, is it? All right. What about you, James? You going to have a stab at it?
Who is it playing? Sorry, who is it?
Slovenia tonight.
Oh, Portugal should win that, shouldn't they?
Thank you. There you go. There's Tig back on form immediately.
It should be Michael. Sorry.
1-0. Was Michael's prediction. Do you want to make a prediction, James?
Well, in true Portuguese spirit, I will predict a Portuguese win.
Good.
In terms of score, I know nothing about Slovenia or pretty much any of the other teams, and very little about Portugal. But I have been following with Sidonio, which has been fun. So, going with the wisdom that exists, one who seems to know a lot, another who knows more than I do, and me who knows nothing, I'll go with a 1-0 victory.
You've got to be careful because but if you get it right, people will be asking you next time. It's a bit like that octopus, wasn't it, that correctly forecasted World Cup games, I think. So well done. You might become a footballing
expert. Yeah, just like being a video producer expert now.
I mean, it's amazing what's been happening to you just recently. So
you do it once, and man,
social capital. Right, Tig. Sorry for that delayed start to the your update, but I think it's very important to talk about Portugal in when there's big games and there's a chance for people to get involved. We should do that.
Absolutely.
You'll be too busy by the sound of it. Moving house. Do you want to say any more about moving? You're staying in Portugal, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm moving up the road. I'm actually in rented accommodation at the moment because I bought somewhere and have been renovating it. And so finally, and I mean, anybody that's ever built a house or done a renovation or whatever will know the hell that it's been. I'd never do it again. Never
you wouldn't?
No.
Oh, really? Is that your advice?
Yeah. Don't do it.
My word. Okay. Right.
It's just been horrendous, but it's weird. It nearly there now. Nearly there now. So
what's been so awkward and unpleasant about it?
People just not being honest. I think you go to builder suppliers. When will we get this? Oh, 2 weeks now. Is that definitely 2 weeks? Yeah, definitely 4 weeks later. You know. And it's still not there. And one of the things, and this actually might be a bit of a good tip for people. I mean, me and my naivety, never having done this before, what I did was I ordered the stuff and, you know, from a builder suppliers, everything that I needed, you know, the bathrooms, yada, yada. And I naivety, like I say, I thought that they would, if things didn't come in, they'd chase it up, but they don't. You go and you order it, and then, you know, it's then down to you if the things don't come in.
Oh,
you
right.
think, yeah, I mean, you've paid them, and you think that they'd go, well, where's this, where's that? We haven't got it. But no, very much not the case. You go in and you go, right, okay, I need this, and that. Oh, no, it hasn't come in yet. Well, did you know when it will? And it'll be like, no. I say, could you ring them, please? So they ring, and they go, oh, yeah, it'll be another 2 weeks.
Right. So are they saying the same things about you then? You're saying never again, then they're not going to be working for Tig again.
Probably,
right.
Yeah.
No, they're probably not going to be working for Tig again.
To be honest, the guys that I used in Lagos, the actual supply, were very, very good with me. We were very, very good. But they knew if I came in that I'd go, well, could you ring them, please? You know, because well, it's no good saying you haven't got it. You need to know when.
Well, this is amazing. So, but however, Pete's here. Look, Tig, as frustrating as it is, we kind of miss the organized chaos. Top tip, order from Spain. So there's 2 bits of information in there. One is to order from Spain and give it time, and you'll be wanting to do another renovation by the sound of it. Pete's only, 2 or 3 years out of his renovation and major build. So you probably just feel like that at the moment, and it'll pass, and you'll be creating an empire of refurbishments around the Algarve. You'll miss You'll miss the bus. Not okay. Fair enough.
I don't think so.
We're getting a no on that, aren't we? Okay. So, Portugal. Oh, yeah, of course you can. Go ahead.
You were talking about dogs earlier on, and one of the things that I learned very, very fast in Portugal when you're looking for another property is to go at least 3 or 4 times at different times. Different
times of the day.
Yes.
You know,
go close to the property yourself and see how the dogs react. Yeah.
Before you buy it. But it did remind me of a time, because I had dogs for nearly 20 years. I've now got a cat that I'm allergic to. Different story.
Very different story.
That's awkward.
Two spaniels, fabulous they were, absolutely, but they weren't allowed upstairs. But of course, the bath was upstairs. So, and they just used to sit at the bottom of the stairs looking at me. And if it was bath time, I'd go like, come on then. And they'd look at me, and then they'd look at each other, and you could just see they would think it's a trap.
Yes.
She's setting us up.
Trap. You know, and they wouldn't, and they just sort of like slowly back off. So then I had to go back down the stairs to go and get them to stick them in there. Usually after a walk in the mud in the woods or something, But
it just sounds like they could create a religion around that, couldn't they? Like what's upstairs, and just occasionally we get baptized. Well, the rest of the time we're not allowed up there, and then on that special moment we're taken up there and doused in water. What is this crazy stuff that these humans do to us?
It was funny though, because they just looked at each other and they knew it's a trap.
It's nice, isn't it?
Well, and if they didn't like the baths, then that would be a whole like, she's trying to get us up here for that. If they did like it, then they'd be very confused.
Hated baths.
Okay, so that may have been why they looked at each other that way. It's like, not getting me up there. That means bath. I'm not going up there.
Then I fooled them, because I converted a room downstairs to a utility room, and I'd got a sink in there. Stick their dogs in that. Yeah.
Wow. And that's why they think we're omnipotent, magnificent creatures, isn't there? And omniscient as well. We are gods to dogs, definitely. Right. The big news, Tig, if I may move on to this so that I don't forget it mainly. And that's the name of the show, is Portugal extends validity of immigration documents. What do you make of this? And our news source is a Substack that I've not seen before. This is called Worktugal, and it is by Van Vo, which is a great name, isn't it, for a Substacker? Van Vo. Portugal extends the validity of immigration documents and visas for 1 year to address the backlog of over 400,000 cases. Now, that's quite an interesting way to deal with the backlog. Is not to actually deal with the backlog, but just to change the deadline.
But do you remember, this is basically what happened with UK nationals, because they just gave us the QR code, didn't they? And said, that'll do.
got kicked down the street, didn't it?
Absolutely. And also what they said to us was obviously because my residency ran out, and they said, oh, but you're still a resident. It's just your document doesn't say that you are. It's, as long as you fulfill the residency conditions, you're still a resident. But the problem is, and this is why people started getting arrested outside of Portugal.
Oh dear, right, yes. Yeah.
Because, for instance, I mean, like Germany, and Germany is known for this, and with the documentation, if you haven't got an in-date ID document, a residency document, they will not accept it. And I get it, of course, and that's how people start. UK nationals started getting arrested. And that is the thing for me on this, is where people have got to be really, really careful what they're doing, because you may be legitimately resident in Portugal, but you have nothing to say you are. And the difficulty is, okay, it's not so much leaving the Schengen area. That's not an issue, because obviously if you're leaving, great, go. That's you're not breaking any laws. It's when you come back. Now, say you go, you go to Santander. So you're coming back into Spain with an expired residency document.
Yes.
So you're going to get your passport stamped, for starters, because they can't see anything that legally says you are a resident in Portugal. Okay.
Right. Yes.
So on their system, you will only be entitled to be in the Schengen area for 90 days on their system.
Okay. And this is the main problem, isn't it? It's okay with Portugal. It's all good with being
Absolutely.
here. You're not going to be finding yourself in trouble. Although you did say, as long as you keep your residency criteria in order. What does that mean exactly? Keep paying your tax, and what else?
Fulfill the conditions, like you're here more than 6 months of the year.
Oh, okay, yeah.
For us, if you're on visas, it's different.
Yes.
You have to fulfill. No, but what I'm saying is, okay, you have nothing to show. So when you hit the Spanish border, say at Santander, you drive in, you come by ferry.
Yes.
What have you got to say you are a legal resident of Portugal?
Not a lot.
You've got nothing. So if your card is expired or whatever you're given, it's expired. Okay.
Yeah.
So they can stamp your passport. On the system, it will say you're only entitled to stay 90 days out of the next 180.
Oh, yeah. So you're compromised. You're officially compromised at that point.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. And that was exactly what was happening to UK nationals, was they hadn't got anything in their hands to say. So they were getting arrested and deported and chucked back to the UK, weren't they?
Well, that's the bad bit about it, because James is looking forward to a trip to Germany. I was thinking maybe if expenses paid, a German expense there, but no, he's going to get chucked out rather than kept in prison in Germany.
But what I'm saying is the only way around it I can see is that if you have perfectly legitimate documents that have expired, is that you actually fly in to Portugal and fly out of Portugal to wherever you're going.
Yes. And people are doing that. People are doing that, aren't they? Especially, yes.
I don't know, because I don't think many people are aware. But if you do that, then hopefully, God willing, the people that are actually on the border control at whichever port you come into in Portugal, they may be aware. You've got a Portuguese
validation, haven't you? Which is kind of better than running the risk that running the gauntlet. I mean, people do fly into Germany, don't they? From America, for example, that could be very risky. Doing that.
Just think, I mean, all you've got is an expired document. Yes. They are not going to accept it. I cannot believe for a second, after what UK nationals went. Sorry, I've got a fly buzzing. That they're going to accept it. I don't believe it for a second. And it's okay. And this is, like I say, it's exactly the same problem we had. It's fine Portugal announcing it, but then they don't give you any documentation to say it's valid.
Yes. Okay. So, and Pete, after the election result in France, says what would watch out for France. Well, this morning they had the far right leader saying that they would arrest anyone doing anything un-French or against the Republic. Did they really put it like that, Pete? Make the most of free travel now. And Tig, this is why Capricorn Chris is here. And actually, he's a big fan of yours. And it sounds like he's actually lucky to be here. Now, sorry if this sounds like a massive digression, But I have walked past skyscrapers and been in a landscape of tall buildings in the city and thought to myself, there are a lot of variables here. Lots could go wrong with things falling from buildings. Chris himself this morning, on my way to the office, a massive pane of glass from the 14th floor of an office came crashing to the ground. If it was 15 seconds earlier, I wouldn't be here. This does happen, doesn't it? So that, as Antonio says, that is quite scary. I also had one or two of those type of events happening to me. What? Okay, be very careful in France and in big cities. And thank goodness you're here, Chris. Tig, what's the process of upgrading your 5-year card to a 10-year card? So, well, hold on. Let's resolve first this whole business then. I mean, the best advice is not to travel, Tig, but if you do, go to countries that may not be hostile to your arrival.
What I would say is, for instance, if you're French,
yes,
just go to France and then come directly back into Portugal.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So best to come straight to Portugal every time. If
Wherever you're coming from, come into Portugal.
Yes.
Because if you say you go to the Caribbean and then you fly into Germany to then, or Holland, you have got an expired visa.
And worst case scenario, then, if you fly back to Portugal, you definitely come back to Portugal. You're at least a 90-day Schengen visitor validated by Portugal, plus the backup of being a Portuguese temporary resident with your administrative process delayed for a year. My
point is the latter. That you, at least you've got a good chance of the person on the border at whichever port you go into may have a good idea that actually your expired document is not an issue.
So a lack of joined up thinking. That's what this is all about then. So it's all very well that IMA have said, okay, well, we'll just knock it down the street for another year. But that memo, even if a memo exists, may not get to the people it needs to get to in these other far-flung parts of Europe.
If our experience is anything to go by, it won't. They won't have a clue. Yeah. And also, and this is what I'm saying, people just, even they're at Portuguese own border control weren't aware of the situation Brits were in. So just be very careful, guys.
And I might add, even within country, and in my situation is a little different, but I had my 2-year renewal appointment in February and paid my money, and they said I would have my new residence card within 90 days. And now it's over 120. I still don't have it. In the meantime, even within the country, different organizations, depending on how they operate, one thing, my bank wants current identification, and I don't have it because my residency card is expired. Now, the bank just kind of went away. So I think that was one of the cases where they go, oh, I understand IMA is having these problems. People aren't getting, I don't know what they're legally obligated to, but they haven't called me back and said, we're going to close your account if you don't.
But if you use your passport, you'll be okay.
Yes, that was one thing I was told, is if I personally want to go into Lisboa to a branch with a passport, and this is with IMT, then I can do that.
My bank wouldn't accept my expired residency card.
Right. Yeah.
I was sat opposite my personal banker with my account on her computer screen.
Yeah. It might not have been you. It might have been somebody pretending to be you with an expired residency card.
It could have been. Yeah, with your picture on it. Yeah. Well, and then the other place where this sweeping it on down the road thing is, then I also have my driver's license, which needs to be renewed as of my birthday in June. But IMT will not allow me to start the process of renewing my license without a proper residency card.
You see, everybody else is now going through what we went through all those years, sort of the last 5 years. Everybody is now going through
the Brexit, post-Brexit guinea pigs.
So there's this whole built backup that happens. Like, they're already backed up here, the bottleneck, but now they say, well, we'll give you all of you a year, so we don't have to do anything, but it doesn't unblock the bottleneck.
No,
it just keeps backing up.
what it does is it solves it for them.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't solve it for
we
any.
don't have to do anything about it. And I know they're trying, but they're just way overwhelmed, understaffed, all the rest of it.
What they've said isn't it, is that they're hiring another 300 people for the next 12 months. That's my understanding, to try and get rid of this backlog of 420,000, I think it now is, of, delayed residency, renewal or whatever. But going back to Capricorn, is his name Chris? Sorry.
It is Chris. And we've already had a suggestion, actually, Tig. What's the process of upgrading your 5-year card to a 10-year card? Antonio F. Look, gluing 2 of them together is not an option, I don't think.
Good thought. Yeah, photocopy them, stick them together, get 10 years.
Okay.
No, what you have to do, Chris, is go onto the IMA website, and you'll see initially, even on the front sort of page, it'll have a contact form. And on there, a contact thing that it's not contact, what's it called? But anyway, it's on the right-hand side, and then you go onto that and click on it, and then send them an email.
Right, okay.
And it clicks in, it's like an email, obviously, it's a contact thing, and you send it, and then, just tell them your situation, whether you'll get anywhere. But I'd just keep doing it. Just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. I mean,
I'm looking at that Brexit portal now, because that changes from time to time, doesn't it? What appears to be the Brexit portal is that at the moment. You either create an account at that point or introduce your old details, Chris. But then is there something else?
No, if you go on to, you don't have to actually log in. You can go onto the initial page. If you have a look, Carl, on the initial page on the right-hand side, or the second page, something like that, there's actually a place where on the right-hand side at the bottom, you can press that, and you can send in, a contact.
All right. Okay. Well, good luck with that, Chris. You just need to start the process, basically, don't you? Make yourself known to them and ask where and how you can do that. Anything else?
Nothing may get done, but at least you'll have a record of trying.
Well said. This is what we think is very good advice: is have a paper trail of at least making an effort.
Good faith.
Yeah, absolutely. Take anything else, because we've got some mindful memes and other thoughtful words to share that have come in from our community. Thanks from Chris, by the way, there.
You're welcome.
And anything else that you want to share with us?
I think my only concern is for people, like I'm saying, if you come back in on try to come back in on an expired visa,
they're
just not going to let you in other countries. They will not be aware.
Yes,
so just
that's what Antonio says.
Be very, very aware that if you're going to leave Portugal and you've got an expired visa, there will be no guarantees you can come back in.
Good reason to stay here and wait for summer. The extension on visa and residency cards is only valid in Portugal. Other border officers will only look to what's written on the card. That's the only valid thing for them. Yeah, absolutely. Of course. You can understand that, can't you? With thousands of people filing past them in any given day. They're not interested in any grey areas. They're just going to go with documents, aren't they? And what's on documents.
Absolutely.
All right. Will you stay with us, Tig, for a God Squad tip of the day then, and some mindful memery as we send everybody off into, well, not only a new day and a new week, but a new month. It's the 1st of July. Can you believe it? God Squad tip of the day: as we lose muscle mass with age, it is normally replaced by fat. We don't need these sort of reminders, do we? So, for instance, if you looked at a cross-section of a thigh of a 30-year-old, you could probably get arrested. Anyway, if you looked at a cross-section of a thigh of a 30-year-old, it would be almost completely muscle. On average, 60-year-olds' thighs, however, would be 30 to 50% fat. Much better cut of meat, though, and a better soup. Those that have perhaps done exercise to keep their weight down would have less fat, but would be beginning to look a little scrawny. I hope this has a happy ending. What?
Hey, all I can say is just renovate somewhere and flipping move boxes.
Exactly. I was making shelves yesterday. I hope that helps. I nearly got myself stuck inside the shelves at one point. I had to be very limber to get out of that situation I made for myself. Felt like I was building the pyramids from the inside out.
I got stuck. I've got like I've decided to put a little seat in the ensuite bathroom, and they've put a gap so you can clean down it. Well, of course, it's all got builders. I put my arm down there, and of course, your flipping elbow joint bigger. It got stuck.
Sorry to laugh, but did you have your mobile with you?
It's elbow now in the air.
Very
panic that you get.
Yes.
and you're trying to maneuver, and I was stuck between the side of the seat and the shower screen.
You probably had to give yourself a good talking to, right?
And of course,
Calm down.
no phone, no, I was there, and I'm like, I'm on my own.
I would be thinking actually at that point, Tig, which of these chemicals in the bathroom here is a lubricant to help me ease my way out of this trap?
They were the other side of the flipping.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Beyond reach. Just that much.
If only you'd had this tip. So to counter this process, we need to do strength exercises, though these can be body weight based. For the thigh, squats are a great way to build muscle mass. Stand with your feet apart. Lower your hips down as far as you can, then slowly rise up again. I find if I hold my hands out front, then balance is easier. Interesting. Build up to 3 sets of 10, and tomorrow we'll see how to progress. Excellent stuff.
I would add, and I'm not against what the coach is saying here, but knees sometimes are not as strong as the thighs. Cool. So be careful when you're doing those squats to not overstress the knees, because you can really hurt yourself. So just go down far enough that you know you can get back up without
needing help,
overstressing the knees.
I've got a much better idea. Just help me move.
Okay, and that's this week.
It all boils down to the same answer.
That's a live offer right now. And I'm going to have to get some earplugs because my knees are noisy as well. I don't want to hear that when I'm doing these squats. Right, over to you for a couple here, James.
Okay, so the mindful moment. There are 1,000 reasons to live this life. Every one of them is sufficient.
Oh, very good. Thank you very much. And
I visited a monastery and I walked past the kitchen. I saw a man frying chips. I asked him, "Are you the friar?" And he replied, "No, I'm the chipmunk." I just love that English humor.
Okay, I've got one just as bad as that.
Excellent.
Why? And it is apt. It is apt. Why doesn't Cinderella play football?
Tig, why doesn't Cinderella play football?
She always runs away from the ball.
Blimey. Okay.
So this is high praise for a dad joke.
Oh, hold on. Do that again. Yeah, thank you very much. Your visuals this morning, James?
Yeah, this was the mindful meme. I started out with nothing and I still have most of it.
Well, ain't that the truth? And a nice, here's a nice doormat for your new home, possibly here.
And I thought that should be on the inside to be really funny. But anyway, because I would read it, don't stop, be leaving.
And it's only just occurred to me, of course. Is it Foreigner or Journey? Don't stop,
yes,
believing, hang on to that feel. So that could be a nice new doormat for you there. And finally, then actually, I've got another one that's just come in from T-Duck, which is I think Nunu will really appreciate it. I think it's Bear Grylls, the head of the Boy Scout movement, and a koala bear. All will be revealed in just a moment. Morning moment from Milen. Good morning to you, Milen. Thanks for being here this morning. And everybody else who joined us on this Mindful Monday. Learn from the past, set vivid, detailed goals for the future, and live in the only moment of time over which you have any control now. That's Dennis Waitley. And some great advice for you while you're wondering why on earth you're moving and you went to all the trouble of refurbing and everything. Come back into the moment, a deep breath, and come back into the moment. And good luck with that, Tig. Jim's here as well. Bon dia todos. Nice to see you there, Jim. And look at this. A couple more comments I see now as I return to the comments section. I was told that if you want a 10-year card, even for a resident, you have to take the language test. That's not true. That is not true, is it?
Again, totally depends on which way you've come into Portugal.
My goodness. Okay. It depends is the answer to that. And
if you're talking about Brits who were here before 2021, the answer is no, you don't.
Right. Okay. All right. And usually how early can you request the extension?
3 months before.
That's a very straightforward answer there. Okay, it's 4 minutes past 10. We really need to go. Tig's got to move house, but I wanted you to see this. In the wild, I use leaves as toilet paper. Spare a thought. Spare a thought.
It's a great expression on the koala.
What? Wait, what?
Wait,
okay.
what?
You've been amazing. Thanks, Tig. All the best, for sorts. Good luck with your move. And I'm sure. What's the first thing you're going to do when you're in your home, moved in? Big gin and tonic, something like that?
Sleep.
Take a big breath. Take a nap.
Hopefully they've delivered the bed by that point. Okay. All right. Nice one, Tig. See you next month. James, thank you very much indeed. Thank you, everybody. Take care and bye for now. We'll see you tomorrow, of course.
Bom dia, Portugal! In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. A little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.